Many of you have heard me speak about our first summer in Salisbury in 2004, and Bob Harris talked to Matthew and invited him to go with the group on this mission trip. Matthew did go, and when he came back, he said, "Dad, next year you're going with us." And I said, yeah. And I did go the next year. And as I stand here this morning, I can say probably one of the best Father's Day gifts Matthew ever gave to me was to be able to be with him in this mission effort. Friday afternoon when I returned, it was from my 5th trip to Rio Verde, Brazil. And I want to say that my life has once again been renewed by this strong mission partnership that we share in Brazil. So I want to share with you about the last 2 weeks of my life from my perspective. And again, these are only my pictures, and Joy and Teresa have plenty of pictures. But I want you to think, even this morning, that there is still 10 Presbyterians who are there who will continue to be working this coming week. There are 3 main purposes of this year's mission trip to Rio Verde. And the first is that the Americans from Salisbury and Asheboro and 2 from Covington, Virginia, total of 15 of us, have gone to Rio Verde as ambassadors of Jesus the Christ and ambassadors of the Presbyterian Church USA. And all of us can say that we know we go to share love, but all of us receive so much more than we ever dreamed we would receive in return. Last summer, I wrote down some of the names of people that I had met, like hotel staff, hospital staff in the churches, a pharmacist next door to the hotel where we stay, and I wrote those down, and so I was able to review those names, before we went, so I could walk in with a little bit of confidence. And the first day that we were there, I walked into the pharmacy where this pharmacist has always been so friendly that I knew his name now, Jose, and I walked in, and immediately he said, "Jim!" So he beat me to it. But I knew it was going to be a wonderful stay from that moment. Matthew and I went into a store just down the street from the hospital where, after we had worked that day at Don Miguel, and a woman in that store speaks a little bit of English, and so she asked where we were working, and we said Don Miguel, and she said, "Well, how much are you being paid to work there?" And we said nothing. And she said, "Oh, so you must be rich Americans." I said, "No, we're here as disciples of Jesus to serve God and this community." And she told me, "I like Jesus, a good person, Jesus." They always graciously want us to share in their worship at their churches, and when I left on Thursday afternoon, I was counting, and I preached a total of 8 times with Lucia Santos as my translator on the left. Her husband, Eudoxio, is there on the right. They've been with us several times here in Salisbury. 3 years ago, I preached in a church, and the pastor, when I had arrived, said that he'd like for me to help with the baptism. And I thought that meant, he wanted me to say a prayer, or he wanted me to read something. But no, he wanted me to actually do the baptism. And I was very honored to do that. He said the parents wanted me to do that. So last Sunday afternoon, after we had been at worship at Don Miguel at 5 o'clock, there was a man who came at 6 o'clock to pick up Lucia and myself to go to 3rd Presbyterian Church, where I would preach 2 times at 6:30 and 8 o'clock p.m. And so we arrived there. It kind of felt like Sunday morning at First Presbyterian Church of Salisbury. We arrived, came in, and sat down, and he said, "Oh, Pastor Jim is here." He said 3 years ago he was here and helped with the baptism. And he said, and tonight he's going to do another baptism. So I went up and did another baptism. And this couple, that baby was less than a month old, so I was very honored to do that. So we go as ambassadors of Jesus. The second reason is that we held the second vacation Bible school at Bread of Life complex that once again we began building that complex in 2004. And so last year, the VBS, we had 80 older elementary students from a nearby elementary school, and this year we had 120, the morning students who attend Bread of Life School, ages 4, 5, and 6. And if that school wasn't there, they wouldn't have a place to be on weekday mornings. And these children were so eager to hear the Bible stories, and many of them hearing those stories for the first time. They sang their little hearts out, and VBS was an amazing success, even if you spoke English and they spoke Portuguese. The third reason is that we had the task of transforming. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but this was the tool shed that the first time I went, a man went to open that door to get the tools out, and a woman and her child were sleeping there. And she's the caregiver for the Bread of Life complex. And so this year, we were going to transform that tool shed and add a couple of rooms on for the lay pastor, his wife, and their amazingly gracious children who are ages 11 and 14. So you can imagine if that was going to be your house, but they were thrilled to death for their new home that hopefully will be almost finished when our folk leave on Friday. That new congregation has just exploded with people. Again, they're standing room only as those people come for worship on Sunday afternoon. They also have a Bible study on Thursday nights. And this is the congregation where last June I was honored to baptize 58 new disciples who had been in classes for 3 months, an experience that may never be repeated in my life again. And you may remember that we used a bowl for the baptisms. The pastor had brought a bowl from another church, but we used a different bowl. And the woman came up to me at the end of the evening, and she had brought this bowl from her home. And she said she wanted me to take it home with me. So it's on my desk, and I protected that bowl like it was Fort Knox on the plane coming home. But this year, after baptizing those 15 people, I now have a second bowl. So now you come by my office and I have 2 matching bowls on my desk as a constant reminder. The Sunday we were there, I helped to teach the last baptismal preparation class. And Pastor Santos at the end asked them to share personal stories on why they were wanting to be baptized. And so one person, this woman said that the caregiver was her friend, and she had invited her to come to Bread of Life to worship. And she said, I came and I found Jesus. And then another young man, this young man in the middle, his name is Marcos, and that's his wife to his right. He said, my wife was baptized last June, and after she was baptized, her behavior changed so much that he said, I decided I had to come and see what this was about. And he said, when I came, I found Jesus, and now I want to be baptized. So I want to say to you, sisters and brothers in Christ, that if it were not for our witness support, the disciples who give of their valuable vacation time, paying for their own travel there, the children would not have a school for their ages in that part of the community. There'd be no program for adults to learn how to read. There would be no Presbyterian presence in Don Miguel, and you know that our 2 cents a meal offerings, part of which go to supply 100 packs of food for families once a month. Okay, these packs of food, and so if you can imagine having one of those packs of food to feed your family for a month. Teresa and Joy and Matt went to deliver food one day, and a woman and her daughter said they had not eaten for 1 month. So they gave them 2 packs of food. So that's what our 2 cents a meal offering does every time we receive that.